Okay, so for those of you who live in Russia are part of the LGBT plus community, um, please get out. And if you can't, really try to stay safe because things are just getting worse and worse for you. But anyway, what brought this up is that Russia's Supreme Court effectively outlaws LGBTQ plus activism in a landmark ruling. Because, it wasn't bad enough for the community in Russia. Russia's Supreme Court effectively outlawed LGBTQ plus activism on Thursday, the most drastic step against advocates of gay, lesbian, transgender rights in the increasingly conservative country. I wouldn't even call it conservative. This is an authoritarian country. It's not conservative at all. Ruling in response to a lawsuit filed by the Justice Ministry, the court labeled what the suit called the LGBTQ plus movement operating in Russia as an extremist organization and banned it. Because, being your authentic self is scary and dangerous to people. The ruling is the latest step in a decade-long crackdown on LGBTQ plus rights in Russia under President Vladimir Putin, who has emphasized traditional family values during his 24 years in power. What traditional family values would those be? Nobody really, people just cite the Bible. Which part? Polygamy used to be a thing in the Old Testament, so seriously, what traditional family values? Because how far do you want to go with that? Actually, I heard that it wasn't until the 12th century that what we consider marriage actually was even sanctioned by the church. When you would hear in like old westerns the act of sex being considered marrying someone, that's because it literally was the only way people got married. They just, shacked up, got together, and that's it. There was no ceremony. So seriously, what traditional family values are you talking about? Thursday's closed-door hearing lasted 4 hours. No one besides Justice Ministry representatives were allowed in, and there was no defendant. Because nothing says fair trial like, only one side being allowed to be there. Journalists were taken into the courtroom only for the reading of the verdict by Judge Oleg Nefedov, who wore a face mask, apparently for health reasons. Either that or he was trying to disguise his face, and I don't know. So, the case was classified and the ministry didn't disclose any evidence, saying only that authorities had identified signs and manifestations of an extremist nature in the movement it seeks to ban, including incitement of social and religious discord. They just want to be able to live their lives without being told that they're evil and that they're going to hell and whatever else people try to shame us with. What social and religious discord? Because by that law, if you're talking religious discord and possibly social, then I wonder when they're going to ban atheists. Because, having non-Christians could possibly sow religious discord because, we might get the religious to think about some of their horrible views. I mean, obviously not everything about religion is horrible, but like assuming that all religious people, and specifically Christians, hate the LGBT plus community. Not all of them do that. Some of them actually, care about people. So, yeah. Multiple rights activists have noted the lawsuit was lodged against a movement that is not an official entity, and that under its broad and vague definition, Russian authorities could crack down on any individual or groups deemed to be a part of it. Well, yeah, that's kind of the point. That's exactly what they want to do. They want to be authoritarian. They want to be the thought police. They want to tell you how to act, what to think. They want to control your lives. So yeah, that's not a bug, that's a feature. In practice, it could happen that the Russian authorities, with this court ruling in hand, will enforce the ruling against LGBTQ plus initiatives that work in Russia, considering them a part of this civic movement, says Max Olniachev, a human rights lawyer who works with the Russian LGBTQ plus community, contacted by the Associated Press before the ruling. The lawsuit targets activists and effectively prohibits any organization activity to defend the rights of LGBTQ plus people, Oleniakev has added. And yes, I'm not sure how to say his name. Multiple Russian independent media outlets and rights groups added rainbow symbols to their logos on social media in solidarity with the LGBTQ plus community. I wonder how many of them are actually in Russia, because most of them also are against the war, so I'm sure most of them are safely in anywhere but Russia. Amnesty International called the ruling shameful and absurd, warning it could lead to a blanket ban on LGBTQ plus organizations, violate freedom of association, expression, and peaceful assembly, and lead to discrimination. Which, again, that is not a bug, that is a feature. That is what they want. And I'm sure that Putin is somehow going to use this to quash any dissent. And I heard that there is some foolish woman who's actually running against him in the election. And I'm just waiting for when she ends up dead. Or in the gulag, one of the two. Because that's Putin's Russia. It will affect countless people, and its repercussions are poised to be nothing short of catastrophic, said Marie Struthers, the group's director for Eastern Europe and Central Asia. A Russian Orthodox Church spokesman praised the ruling, telling the state-run RIA Novosti News agency that it was a form of moral self-defense by society from efforts to push the Christian idea of marriage and family from the public and legal realms. Okay. Now, this is the church that claims that their God is all-powerful, but they need the law to protect their God from being pushed out by ideas that aren't Christian, or they don't deem Christian. Okay, first off, like I said, not all Christians think like you do. They're not all bigots. Moral self-defense. Whose morals? I mean, okay, you're for monogamy, I assume. If gay people get married, many of them are in monogamous relationships. So, what harm are they causing? They're not doing anything immoral. I mean, I just don't get this moral self-defense. I mean, as long as you are not hurting other people, I do not see what is why people are so concerned about other people's morals. As long as they don't hurt other people, what the hell is the problem? And nobody is trying to push the Christian idea of marriage and family from the public and legal realms. Just because LGBT plus people get rights doesn't mean you lose them on the heterosexual side. Nobody is going to be forcing you to marry the same sex. Nobody's going to force you to transition. Nobody is going to force you to become asexual, pansexual, whatever the hell sexuality or gender identity you're afraid of. Nobody is pushing that on you. All they want is to be able to have the same rights as you do. That is literally the only thing happening here. And why the pearl clutchers are doing this, it leads me to believe that a lot of these so-called Christians are so that their beliefs are so flimsy, that their faith is so flimsy, that anything that is contrary to them, they want to quash because, oh my God, that might make me realize that I'm a horrible person. I mean, if you think like that, why are you insisting on still remaining a horrible person? Nobody is forcing you to, what, you think that just because you force others to live like you do, that everybody else does that? No. Most people couldn't give a rat's ass how you live your life. Again, as long as you're not hurting others, there is literally no reason for anybody to try to make the way you live illegal. It's just stupid. Okay. The Justice Ministry has not commented. Before the ruling, leading Russian human rights groups filed a document with the court that called the lawsuit anti-lawful, discriminatory, and a violation of the Constitution and international human rights treaties that Moscow has signed. Oh, I'm pretty sure Putin's gonna, put the kibosh on those international treaties, just like he's done with other ones. Some LGBTQ plus activists said they tried to become a party to the lawsuit, but were rebuffed by the court. Of course they were. This isn't a legit lawsuit. They already decided what the ruling was going to be before anything. This is just a sham trial, like a lot of their trials. We tried to find some legal logic in this absurdity. Don't hurt yourself trying to do that, said Igor Kochetkov, a human rights advocate and founder of the Russian LGBT network rights group. We tried to appeal to the Supreme Court's common sense and say, look, here I am, a person who's been involved in LGBT activism for years, who's been promoting these ideas of defending human rights, mind you, and this lawsuit concerns me, he told the AP. See, that's your problem. You think these people are using common sense. No, they're hiding behind religion to be bigots. You are expecting bigots to use logic. No, they just want to continue being bigots. And I don't know why. I don't know if they're closeted or if they're just, like I said, so afraid that if they allowed someone who thinks differently than them into their lives, that they might, have more nuance in their thinking. I honestly do not know why bigots insist on remaining bigots. I mean, I can understand being a bigot before you're exposed to whatever it is that caused the bigotry. Because it's possible you just don't understand, you were just told all sorts of bullshit. But once you come into contact and realize that these people are not the demons that you were told about, and you still cling on to your bigotry, that takes work. Alright. They don't want any trial, Kochetkov added. They do not want to address this matter. Exactly. This is a political order, and they are following it. It is the end of any kind of justice in Russia by and large. Really? You're only figuring that out now? It's been going this way ever since they banned propaganda. Or I should say propaganda, because God knows what the hell propaganda is. In 2013, the Kremlin adopted the first legislation restricting LGBTQ+ rights, known as the Gay Propaganda Law, banning any public endorsement of non-traditional sexual relations. Again, what does that mean? Among minors. Okay? So, the U.S. has statutory rape laws. So, again, are we talking adults with minors? Because that's wrong regardless of your sexuality. I'm not sure what the problem is here. In 2020, constitutional reforms pushed through by Putin to extend his rule by 2 more terms also include a provision to outlaw same-sex marriage. You know, some people have... I think I know why Putin is going so hard against the LGBT+ community, and gays in particular. Because so many people have accused him of being gay. And since he's so macho, he has to prove that he's macho. So he has to outlaw and ban same-sex anything, because we can't have people questioning one's sexuality. It's like, dude, get a life. Okay, fine. Whether you're gay or not, what is the big fucking deal? There's nothing to be up in arms about. What are you, 12? After sending troops into Ukraine in 2022, the Kremlin wrapped up a campaign against what it called the West's degrading influence, in what rights advocates say as an attempt to legitimize the war. They have gone through so many fucking reasons to legitimize the war. It's unreal. They're just trying to grasp at anything to prove that they have a good reason to invade an innocent country. That same year, the authorities adopted a law banning propaganda of non-traditional sexual relations among adults. Because, as I proved with my previous video about the expansion of the Don't Say Gay law in Florida, it was never about children. It was never about that at all. Alright, where was I? Also effectively outlawing any public endorsement of LGBTQ+ people. Another law passed this year prohibited gender transitioning procedures and gender-affirming care for transgender people. Jesus Christ, just everybody leave Russia and let Putin rule over a barren land, because this is only going to get worse. The legislation prohibited any medical interventions aimed at changing the sex of a person, as well as changing one's gender in official documents and public records. It also amends Russia's family code by listing gender change as a reason to annul a marriage and adding those who had changed gender to a list of people who can't become foster or adopted parents. My God, what year are we in? He's going completely medieval. Do we really want to have here in our country, in Russia, parent number 1 to number 3 instead of mom and dad? Putin said in September 2022. Okay, Step families are a thing. And so that would include parent number 1, parent number 2, parent number 3, parent number 4, depending on if both parents remarry. So, are you going to outlaw those too? And also, when it comes to trans families, trans parents, there might be a mom and dad. One might have transitioned from male to female and from man to woman, and the other one the opposite way. So, still mom and dad. Again, thinking is hard. Do we really want perversions that lead to degradation and extinction to be imposed in our schools from the primary grades? Wait, extinction? Again, nobody is forcing you to have gay sex. Nobody's forcing you to marry a trans person. Nobody's forcing you to do fucking anything. You guys are the ones who are forcing LGBT plus people to fit into your mold of what is meant to be human. They're not the ones who are trying to force shit on anybody. So what's this extinction? I've heard this argument so much before that, if everybody was gay, the human species would cease to exist. Well, not everybody is gay, and nobody is forcing everyone to be gay. They just want to be able to live their lives. And what is being imposed in schools from primary grades? Telling little Johnny that gay people exist is not going to make him suddenly gay. I've mentioned this many times before on this channel. I'm asexual, but I grew up surrounded by straight people, straight couples, and I'm still asexual. By this logic, that should not have happened. I should be straight, but I'm not. Why? Because it has nothing to do with outside influence. This isn't a choice. This isn't something I just chose to do because humans suck. No, I'm just not attracted to people in that way. This isn't hard. Ugh. Authorities reject accusations of LGBTQ plus discrimination. Of course they do, because they don't want to admit that they're discriminatory assholes. Earlier this month, Russian media quoted Deputy Justice Minister Andrei Loganov as saying that the rights of LGBT people in Russia are protected legally. Sure they are. He was presenting a report on human rights in Russia to the UN Human Rights Council in Geneva, arguing that restraining public demonstrations of non-traditional sexual relationships or preferences is not a form of censure for them. Really? Because I would bet that if Carnival was happening in Russia, which basically is just gay pride just in a religious sense, I would assume that you guys would be fine with that. So, how is that not censoring then? Because, discrimination is when you tell a group of people that they can't do what you are letting other groups of people do. So, it's discrimination. Olenchev said the Supreme Court ruling ushers in a number of restrictions, such as participating in, aiding, or funding extremist organizations, publicly using certain logos and symbols related with them, or publicly endorsing ideas they propagate. But while a court-mandated ban for an extremist organization to operate comes into force immediately, these restrictions will start 30 days after the ruling if a defendant doesn't appeal. How the fuck can a defendant appeal when you didn't even let them be in the trial? But at least they were kind enough to wait 30 days. Gotta give the optics that they actually give a shit about the opposite side. The exact nature of these restrictions, such as which symbols will be banned, remains unclear, because the case is classified and will only become apparent in the first legal actions brought against activists, Olenchev added. Although violating them exposes people to prosecution and potential prison terms. And we all know that Russian prisons are just a picnic. This will likely lead to a decrease in legal, psychological, and other aid and support for LGBTQ plus people in Russia. The aid and support for LGBTQ plus people in Russia get from rights groups and grassroots initiatives, he said, and make the community itself and its needs less visible. Which is what the Russian government wants. This is what the Russian Orthodox Church wants. They want the LGBT plus people to just disappear. Because apparently we make people way too uncomfortable and make people think about, actually treating people with kindness and minding their own fucking business. The authorities are doing everything for the LGBT plus agenda to disappear from the public square, he added. Yep. Many people will see leaving Russia before they become targeted as the only option, says Olga Bonarova, director of the Moscow Community Center for LGBT plus initiatives. And they should. It is clear for us that they're once again making us out as a domestic enemy to shift the focus from all the other problems that are in abundance in Russia, Bonarova told AP. Oh yeah, that's the other thing. The war in Ukraine is not going well. So instead of focusing on that and the fact that, your kids are either coming home messed up or they're coming home in boxes, or better yet, they disappear and the authorities just don't tell you what happened to your kids. Are they dead? Are they captured? Did they run the fuck away because they found out that Russia sucks? Let's focus on the whipping boy of the LGBT plus community. Others are determined to stay and continue working with the LGBTQ plus community. And I gotta say, you're braver than I am. I would just get the hell out of Dodge. Or maybe I would help. I don't know. I'd like to think I would stay and help, but I don't know. Dasha Yakle, oh my God, was with me and my Russian today. Yakovelva said Feminative, a women's group she co-founded, is the only group in Russia's westernmost Kaliningrad region that, in addition to advocating for women's rights, offers support to LGBTQ plus people at the moment and will look for ways to continue. Well, it's happened before that the LGBT community went underground and weren't allowed to be obvious. They somehow made it work, so I guess they can do it again. She told AP that she sees the value in helping LGBTQ plus people exercising their rights. Since our state doesn't intend to do that, then it's the task of our civil society to try to be an island of safety, of advocacy, a connection with the international community, Vakovleva said. So that is the end of that article. But yes, like I said, if you're in Russia and you're LGBT plus, please stay safe. Or if you can, get out of there because you're not wanted. And actually, especially if you're of draft age, you definitely want to get the hell out of there, especially if you happen to be male. Because I don't think they're drafting women. So, yeah, get the hell out of there because if nothing else, you're going to end up fighting in a war against a country who did absolutely nothing to you. So, either way, get out. So, that is all I have for that article. And with that, I will see you guys in the next one.